The movie focuses on a man named Lance who lives in a simple rental house. Lance was once a gangster who moonlighted as a hitman. After successfully killing his target, Lance's partner betrayed him, which made him arrested by the police and languish in prison for 15 years. After getting out of prison, Lance isolated himself from social life, and to support his daily life, Lance worked odd jobs, one of which was as a welder. Despite being released from prison, Lance apparently felt uncomfortable in living the rest of his life. Therefore, he was always on guard by carrying a gun wherever he went. And to entertain himself and drive away loneliness, Lance often plays blues music in his room. One day, Lance was meet with his neighbor who was a teenage girl named Anna. Anna works as a singer in one of the bars in the city. Seeing the new neighbor coming, Anna was very familiar and greeted Lance, who was very cold. Meanwhile, elsewhere introduced a gangster leader and drug dealer named Gregor. To cover up his illegal business, Gregor married a young girl named Adelina and opened a bakery with his wife. After serving the customers, Gregor asked his wife for permission to go out for a while. All this time, Adelina was not at all suspicious of what her husband was doing out there. Although the two of them were very far apart in age, Adelina loved her husband very much. Apparently, at that time, Gregor was dealing drugs with an old man. The old man immediately gave Gregor some drugs. To remove suspicion, Gregor and his men hid the drugs under their car. Not long after, Gregor and the others left the place. The next day, Gregor and the others got a call from one of his fellow gangsters and asked him to meet immediately. From the look on Gregor's face, it seemed that he was very afraid of the man and could not refuse the man's request. Apparently at that time, Gregor was meeting with a man named Vladimir. At first, Vladimir made small talk by asking how Adelina was and said not to let Gregor have another child in his 50s. Shortly after that, Vladimir mentioned the Aryan Brotherhood who had betrayed their business. He asks Gregor to settle the matter by slaughtering the members of the group. Gregor initially refuses, as he has no problem with these people. However, Vladimir says that if the Aryan Brotherhood catches him, then they will catch Gregor too. Vladimir also brought a brown envelope containing photos of Lance, who had been released from prison. Lance once had a run-in with Vladimir, which led to him ending up in prison. And if Lance is willing to follow their orders, Vladimir guarantees that he will not bother Lance again. While elsewhere, Lance still feels unable to live in peace with the past crimes he has committed. To remove traces of the past, Lance went to a tattooist and asked the tattoo artist to remove his tattoo. But when she saw the swastika symbol on the man's chest, the tattoo artist immediately gave up. Lance, who felt tormented by this curse, immediately went to the nearest bar to calm down. After ordering a glass of drink, Lance apparently met Anna again, who was performing at the venue. Seeing Lance there, Anna immediately went down to meet him, but Lance just wanted to leave, which made Anna quite upset. She asked if Lance was always annoying, or if he was just being like that to her. Not long after, Lance returned to his residence. Then Gregor and his men were waiting for him there. Without further ado, Gregor immediately said the purpose of his coming. He wanted Lance to finish off the Aryan Brotherhood, and would reward him good enough after he finished off those people. Gregor would give Lance a passport and money, so that he could start a new life, and Lance could live more peacefully. At first, Lance refused the request because he had repented and did not want to fall into the same hole again. However, Gregor gave Lance the opportunity to think this through. When Gregor and the others wanted to leave the place, unexpectedly Anna had just returned from a gig and crossed paths with them. This also made them curious. What was the relationship between the two? After they left, Lance finally wanted to make small talk with his neighbor. Lance asked how the rest of the performance was, and Anna replied that Lance should have stayed there until the end of the show. Lance, who was apparently interested in Anna's voice, said that Anna should be able to find a better place and appreciate her talent. Anna replied that she had no expectations other than the bar. After that, the two of them returned to their respective rooms. Apparently, Gregor's offer earlier made Lance think and could not think clearly. Not long after, Lance called Gregor and decided to reject the offer. That's because he no longer wanted to be involved with murder cases. But Gregor refused Lance's request and emphasized that a murderer would still be a murderer. Gregor said that Lance could not get rid of the past identity in himself. At the same time, Gregor also insisted that Lance finish off the Aryan Brotherhood. Gregor did not expect that his wife to hear this conversation. The next day, Lance went straight to the Aryan Brotherhood place. In order for them not to be suspicious of his presence, Lance also showed the tattoo of their Brotherhood symbol. After a while, Lance was brought to their superior, who we'll call Dax. Dax immediately interrogated Lance by asking him several questions. But before Lance answered the question, Dax stopped him as if he was suspicious of the bald man's presence. And suddenly Lance was brutalized until he made Dax fall. After successfully eliminating Dax, Lance immediately returned to the car and called Gregor. He asked where Gregor kept the passport and money he had promised all this time. Apparently, Gregor had been hiding those in the vents of Lance's residence. Lance immediately went back and checked the vents. Sure enough, Gregor kept the passport there. Using this passport, Lance intended to move countries and start a new life. Apparently, what he had just done made him depressed and unable to think clearly. That night, Lance drank a lot of alcohol. Then he heated up the iron. He would use this iron to remove the tattoos on his body, and not long after, he pressed the hot iron to his tattoo, until he screamed in pain. Moments later, Lance woke up and packed up all his belongings. Lance had previously been unconscious for 12 hours due to the pain he suffered while removing his tattoo. And just as he wanted to go out, Lance saw Anna collapsed on the stairs. Lance felt sorry for the young girl, so he immediately brought her to her room. Seeing the young girl struggling alone in the city, Lance sympathized and thought of Anna as his daughter. He asked Anna what she was doing in the city. Anna should have better opportunities out there. But Anna asked Lance not to be wise like a father to her, because her own father brought nightmares into Anna's life. Before actually leaving the place, Lance had left a vinyl record box in front of the door of Anna's residence. Not long after, Anna woke up and found the box. She immediately started playing music in her room. Anna apparently liked the music box. When Anna tried to say thank you and meet Lance, but unfortunately he was no longer there. Finally, Anna puts a message on the wall saying that Lance should meet her at the bar tonight. Elsewhere, Gregor and his men are seen talking about their illegal business. It wasn't long before Vladimir arrived at the venue. Seeing the emergency situation, Gregor's men left immediately. Apparently, Vladimir came there to tell Gregor that what Lance did was witnessed by a 10-year-old boy, and the boy is currently under police surveillance, and the possibility that Lance will be arrested again. To eliminate traces and their connection in the murder, Vladimir asked Gregor to finish off Lance without leaving a trace, no matter what. Gregor felt a dilemma with this situation, but because he had no other choice, Gregor finally ordered his men to immediately finish off Lance. He also asked them not to leave any clues that would make suspicious. Not long after, Gregor's men immediately set off to finish Lance down. On the way, they looked upset, because this task was quite heavy. That's because they had to betray Lance, who had worked for their own boss. Arriving at Lance's residence, they found a letter posted on the wall. They also barged inside and didn't find Lance there. Finally, they split the team into two groups. The first group would continue to wait for Lance here, while the second group would go to the bar to meet Lance and the girl there. Not long after, Lance returned to his residence, and suddenly he was attacked by these people. At that time, Lance was almost beaten and unable to fight the two men. However, seeing the letter Anna left behind, Lance realized Anna was in danger. And finally, he tried to fight back and managed to turn the situation around and was able to finish off the two Gregor's men. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Gregor's other men began to get suspicious because their partner never gave news. Finally, the two of them split up. One went to the bar to keep an eye on Anna, while the other returned to Lance's residence to see the situation. Once there, he saw that his two colleagues were dead and immediately reported this to Gregor. Suddenly, Gregor panicked and intended to catch up with them. Before leaving, Gregor asked his wife for permission first and said that he would be back soon. But from their conversation, it could be seen that Gregor had no hope of returning. His wife had also started to get suspicious of what her husband was doing out there. Not long after, Lance finally arrived at the bar. Seeing Lance coming, Anna immediately sang her favorite song. In the same place, Lance also immediately recognized Anna as Gregor's men, which we just call him Peter. Realizing that Peter was eyeing him, Lance gave Peter the opportunity to leave the place immediately. However, because this Peter was a bit stubborn, he chose to stay there. A moment later, Lance also provoked Peter to move away from the place, until suddenly, while in the toilet, Lance beat Peter to the ground. Meanwhile, Anna also became suspicious of the two people and immediately stopped her performance. She decided to check what happened to them. Seeing Lance, who brutally slaughtered Peter, made Anna shocked and asked Lance not to approach her. Lance tried to give an understanding that the person was trying to hurt Anna. Lance asked Anna to immediately seek protection and call the police. While Anna was trying to call the police, she was suddenly beaten from behind. After capturing Anna, the man we'll call Vin immediately called Gregor. He told Gregor that the woman already knew everything about them. Feeling that the situation was getting chaotic and feeling that Anna would backfire on them, Gregor asked Vin to kill the woman. It's not just to get rid of the trail. However, if Lance finds out Anna is still alive and in their hands, Lance will not hesitate to attack them to protect her. Vin, who was in a dilemma at the time, also had no other choice, so he finally obeyed his boss's orders. Before executing Anna, Vin called Lance first to tell him what he was going to do. And suddenly Lance looked devastated by the sound of the gunshot. He lost his mind and didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Gregor came to pick up Vin and calm him down from the incident. Not long after, Lance also called Gregor and asked them to meet behind the wood factory. Not long after, Gregor and the others arrived at the lumber mill. Seeing Gregor's men getting out of the car, Lance immediately took action. Gregor thought that his men had succeeded in killing Lance. He immediately came out of hiding to check on Lance's corpse. But when he got there, he was shocked by the fact that the corpse turned out to be the corpse of his own men. And suddenly, Lance appears and finishes off Gregor and his remaining men. Elsewhere, Vladimir began to worry because Gregor never gave any news. To eliminate traces of Gregor's disappearance, he finally met Adelina and killed her. While elsewhere, Anna, who we thought was dead, turns out to be alive. She's still alive. She then immediately untied herself and returned to her residence. Seeing Lance's music box in that place, Anna, who was already annoyed with Lance, slammed the music box. But who would have thought the box not only contained old school tapes, but also tens of thousands of dollars. Apart from money, there is also Lance's letter to Anna. In his letter, Lance seems to be giving Anna a chance to live a better life compared to now. At the end of the movie, Gregor and Lance were almost dying from the fight. In a situation like this, Gregor still had time to yell, which made Lance even more disgusted, until finally Lance silenced the man. After this incident, it is uncertain whether Lance survived and found the peaceful life he dreamed of, or did he end up tragically like Gregor until the movie ended. That's the storyline of the movie Tainted 2020. Thank you for watching until the end of the video.